Hey guys, MetalJesus here. Today we're going to take a look at the PS1 Digital. This is an HDMI mod that you do to the inside of an original PlayStation 1 console that basically taps into the digital video and audio and then outputs in glorious 1080p. Now this is brought to us by the same people who did the amazing Dreamcast HDMI mod that I highlighted, I believe, last year. And so these guys really know what they're doing when it comes to getting the best video quality out of these original consoles. But I have to laugh a little bit at the coincidence of me getting this preview unit in for review at around the same time I was also reviewing those Rad2X cables that use the RetroTink, and I put a video out, I think just a week ago on that. And so it really highlights that there are a lot of options for fans of these older consoles to get better video quality out and potentially display it on a modern television. And so in this video, I kind of want to show and also compare all the different options that people have available to them, because yes, some people might just be happy with a $20 solution that is just okay, but some people maybe want to spend a little bit more for a little bit better quality. Some people, may be happy with emulation on a PlayStation 3. And then some people will simply just want the absolute best that they can get. And so that's my goal with this video, is to kind of show you the range of things that you can look at. Also, I should note that I specifically wanted to put this modification in this clear blue case simply because I just thought it looked cool. And I kind of like that with my heavily modded consoles. I like the fact that I can easily look on my game room shelf and see, okay, that's the one that's gonna have like the most radical, awesome modifications to it. So it's purely aesthetic. All right, so what is a PS1 Digital? Well, like I mentioned, it is a printed circuit board that you buy for about $160, and then you open up your existing PlayStation 1 console, and then assuming that you have some soldering skills, or perhaps you pay somebody, they basically will use it to tap into the motherboard of that console, and then they're getting access to the raw video and audio coming off that motherboard and basically bypassing all of the analog signal to get a whole bunch of extra functionality that you wouldn't normally get with, say, cables. By the way, installing this mod does not in any way disable the normal output of the PlayStation 1, so technically you can use both. So let's go ahead and go into the menu and I'll show you some of the options here. You hold down L2, R2, and then you hold down Start as well as Square and X, and that will give you access to the menu. And so from here you can see that you have 480p output, you have VGA, which basically fixes the aspect ratio so circles look absolutely perfect instead of looking like ovals. And then you have 960p as well as 1080p. Now the difference between 960p and 1080p is the inclusion of borders. You have black borders on 1080p. Some people don't like that, but the reason why you would do that is because technically they can actually make it a little bit clearer at 1080p if you allow borders, and even more so on a 4K television. Another thing that this supports, which is pretty cool, is the ability to automatically check whether the game is NTSC or PAL, and then basically it will change the clock frequency accordingly. So all of a sudden you can play basically any game from any region. So for instance, here you see a game called Chaos Break, which originally came out in Japan and Europe only, but I am running the European version right here. And yeah, it's running and it looks great. Some other features that it supports are Scanlines, which of course some people love, some people don't. It's nice that you have the option for them. Here is Slug X. This is without any Scanlines. And as you can see, it's a 2D run and gun game, and I think it just looks absolutely glorious on here. But then we'll go ahead and go into the menu and then turn on Scanlines. These are the default ones. And as you can see here, it has a very nice retro look. I actually like the look of these Scanlines quite a bit. It's not typically something that I usually use when playing games, but it's a cool option, and I know a lot of people are very passionate about them. So I think they look good, plus you can go in and tweak them to your liking. And there is a smoothing option if you want. You can go in there and either enable it or disable it to taste. It's funny, when these devices first started shipping with smoothing, I turned it on for almost everything. but lately I've been just leaving it off and enjoying the raw pixels. So again, it's to taste. Another thing that this does extremely well is quickly switch between 240p and 480i resolution. You see that a lot in Dino Crisis, where the main gameplay will be in the lower resolution of 240p, but then every time you go into the menu, it increases the resolution. And on some of the other solutions out there, some of the cheaper cables, that sometimes will require your TV to kind of resync. And as you can see here, it's instant, it's flawless, and so it works really well. Another nice feature is Wi-Fi updates. So if you connect it to your local Wi-Fi, well, you're gonna be able to download future firmware. And they've got some interesting things planned, because I'm sure you noticed that this HDMI port is actually taking the place of the serial port. And if you like to connect multiple PS1s together and link games, well, you can't really do that with this modification. Well, they're planning on adding that back in, but doing it wirelessly. So basically, you're going to be able to have two of these PS1 digital consoles and link together via Wi-Fi to do multiplayer. That is pretty cool. Also, they're planning on adding better motion adaptive de-interlacing. So there are a handful of PS1 games out there that run in 480i. So they're interlaced, and when you play them, you can kind of see that there's these weird interlacing edges. And so, there is some support out of the box right now with trying to smooth that up a bit, but it's going to be significantly better as time goes on. So let's go ahead and compare some of the different solutions out there to the PS1 Digital. That way you can decide if this is actually something for you or not. All right, so this is a game called Speed Punks, and on the left we have the Pound HD Link, which works on both the PlayStation 1 and the PlayStation 2 and costs about $30. And then on the right we have the PS1 Digital, and man, there is just no contest. I mean, it just looks razor sharp. The colors are incredibly vivid, and it looks fantastic. But again, it's $160, and that's not even installed. So just keep that in mind. And then here's a game called Gunner's Heaven. This is a Japanese game here that's running on it. And again, on the left we have the Pound cable, and then on the right we have the PS1 Digital. And to me, this really highlights how amazing these 2D games can look on the PlayStation 1. Outputting in full 1080p, oh man, it just looks absolutely gorgeous. Now let's go ahead and compare it to some of my favorite cables, and that is the Rad2X on the left, and then of course you have the PS1 Digital on the right. And these cables are definitely a step up in quality as they use the RetroTink technology, but they do cost about $60. And in some ways, this is not a fair comparison, because remember, those Rad2X cables line double the original signal from 240p up to 480p. And then what I'm doing is then increasing the resolution again, because my video is in 1080p. And that's why you're getting a softer image on the left. However, the Rad2X cables connected to your television with nothing in between may actually look a little bit crisper. But there's no denying that that raw 1080p video output from the PS1 Digital on the right looks stunning. What about the PS1 Mini? Well, here's Ridge Racer 4, and on the left you have the Mini, and on the right you have the PS1 Digital. Now, keep in mind that the Mini only outputs in 720p, and again, I'm having to blow it up a little bit here so that it's fair in my 1080p video, but that's the reason why it looks softer on the left. But again, it's like the PS1 Digital just looks crisper all around. I do want to talk about audio because, as I mentioned, it is also capturing the audio off the motherboard and then outputting it digitally through that HDMI cable, and it sounds incredible both in the sound samples as well as the Redbook audio. And I was initially kind of blown away by the quality coming through my speakers when playing Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2. Unfortunately, all of that music is licensed, and that would give me an instant copyright claim, but here are some other games with really great audio too. I also want to mention the PlayStation 3 because up till just recently, that was the way that I played and captured gameplay footage for the PlayStation 1 because, in case you don't know, I think pretty much every PlayStation 3 is backwards compatible to the PlayStation 1 and it upscales to HDMI. So it actually is a very good solution if you already have one of those consoles in your game room. But again, the big selling point of the PS1 Digital is that it is not emulation. It is simply tacked on to your original PlayStation 1 hardware. So it has 100% compatibility with all of the games out there, plus all of the other regions. So that is a very attractive option. And again, the output is just amazing. So what are the downsides? Well, like many of these solutions, it's not going to be for everybody because it's $160 just for the board itself, and that's not installed. So unless you have some pretty decent soldering skills, you're going to have to get somebody to install it for you, and of course that is going to add to the cost. And like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, there are a lot of solutions depending on how much you want to take on and how much money you want to spend. And so I do think that the Rad2X cables will be good enough for the vast majority of people. And again, if you already own a PS3, well, you already have a solution that works pretty well. But if you are a hardcore PlayStation 1 fan and you want the ultimate video out experience, it's hard not to argue that this is definitely it. If you want to learn more, I'll put a link down in the video description below, and also note that on their website, they have a list of recommended installers. And so if you don't want to try installing this yourself, well, they have a list of people that know their products and also do a good job installing them. Me personally, I've used Dragon's Horde Gaming in the past. He's the one that installed the Dreamcast mod in my system. All right, guys, I'd love to know if you are considering getting this modification for your PlayStation 1, or if other solutions are good enough. Let me know down in the comments below. As always, I'd like to thank you for watching my channel. Thank you for subscribing, and take care.